The hand that reached out from the darkness did not hold a weapon, but it held the weight of a judge's gavel. Mateo didn't fire. His finger hovered over the trigger, the tension in his forearm burning like a live wire. The figure stepped fully into the dim light of the shack. It wasn't a third command soldier, nor was it one of Cobra's death squads. It was Silas, the old fence who ran the black market electronics out of the back of the bakery. Silas looked at the barrel of Mateo's rifle, then up to Mateo's eyes. He didn't flinch. He just slowly used his foot to kick the door shut, engaging the heavy deadbolt. The sounds of the invasion, the shouting, the shattering glass, muffled instantly, replaced by the heavy breathing of two men in a dust-choked room. "You look like a corpse that forgot to fall down, Mateo," Silas rasped, his voice rough from decades of cheap cigarettes. He moved to a small wooden table and poured a glass of tepid water, sliding it across the dusty surface. Mateo didn't lower the rifle. "Why shouldn't I drop you, Silas? The third command is paying 5,000 reals for anyone in an ADA tactical vest." 10,000, Silas corrected, taking a sip from his own glass. "But money is only useful if you live to spend it. And the third command, they are messy. They are shooting anything that runs. If I turn you in, I catch a stray bullet in the chaos. I prefer the devil I know." Mateo finally lowered the weapon, the adrenaline crash hitting him like a physical blow. He slumped against the wall, sliding down until he sat on the floor, the rifle across his lap. "Cobra is finished," Mateo said, stating the fact that hung in the air like smoke. "Cobra was finished the moment he started taxing the grandmothers," Silas muttered. He moved to the window, peering through a crack in the wooden shutters. "Come, look." Mateo forced himself up. Through the slats, he saw the alleyway below. It was surreal. Soldiers in the black tactical gear of the third command weren't just kicking down doors, they were handing out bottles of water. They were escorting families out of the crossfire zone. It was a performance, a psychological masterstroke. They weren't conquering Rocinha, they were liberating it. "They are winning the hearts," Mateo whispered. "Cobra is screaming about loyalty while they are offering water." "The era changes," Silas said, turning back, "and you need to change with it. That vest marks you for death. If you go to the extraction point at the marina looking like a soldier, you die. If you stay here, you die." Silas opened a battered chest at the foot of his bed. He pulled out a stained mechanic's overall, grease-streaked and smelling of diesel, and a worn baseball cap. "Put these on. Leave the vest. Leave the rifle." Mateo hesitated. The rifle was his lifeline. It was the only thing that made sense in a world that had dissolved into chaos. Giving it up felt like stripping off his skin. "The rifle screams enemy," Silas pressed. "The work screams worker. You want to survive? Become a ghost. Be nobody." Mateo stripped off the tactical vest, the Velcro tearing sound loud in the small room. He dropped the heavy ceramic plates, the radio that was still spitting out Cobra's delirious orders, and finally the rifle. He pulled on the mechanic's jumpsuit. It was loose, hiding the handgun he'd tucked into the waistband at his back, his only concession to safety. "The marina is compromised," Mateo said, adjusting the cap. "The boat won't wait." "The marina is a trap," Silas corrected. "Bope has blocked the tunnels. The only way out is up, through the forest track, past the antennae, down into Gavia. It's suicide, but it's the only door open." Mateo nodded. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a roll of damp cash, his escape fund. He tossed it onto the table. Silas didn't look at it. "Go," the old man said, "before the wind changes." Mateo slipped out the back door, into the labyrinths of the Becco Dorato. The atmosphere had shifted. The frantic gunfire had been replaced by the rhythmic thumping of police helicopters overhead. The spotlight beams cut through the humidity, slicing the favela into segments of light and dark. He moved differently now, no longer the hunter, stalking with a raised weapon. He hunched his shoulders, keeping his head down, mimicking the terrified shuffle of a resident caught in the crossfire. He passed a group of 3rd Command soldiers smoking at a corner. They barely glanced at him, just another dirty mechanic fleeing the violence. The disguise worked. But as he began the steep ascent towards the upper forest line, the radio silence in his head was broken by a scream. Not over the airwaves, but real, echoing off the concrete walls. Mateo froze. In a small courtyard ahead, illuminated by the flickering light of a burning car, stood Cobra. He wasn't dead. He wasn't hiding. Cobra was standing on the hood of a wreck, an assault rifle in each hand, screaming at the sky, surrounded by 5 terrified teenagers, his last guard. He looked demonic, his face smeared with blood and soot, firing blindly into the dark rooftops where the 3rd Command snipers lay in wait. "I am Rocinha," Cobra roared, the muzzle flash illuminating his madness. Mateo pressed himself into the shadows. He could take the shot. He could end it right now with his hidden pistol. 1 bullet to the back of the head. It would be mercy. It would be justice for Leo, for the residents, for the city. But Silas's words echoed in his mind. Become a ghost. To shoot was to reveal himself. To engage was to die. Mateo tightened his grip on the hidden pistol, his knuckles white. He watched the monster he had served for 3 years rage against the dying of the light. Then he turned away. He stepped into the darkness of the forest path, leaving the king of the slums to his fate. The climb would be hard, but for the first time in years, Mateo wasn't climbing for power. He was climbing for air.